What's the best ratio of protein, carbs, and fats to get the body you want? Let's talk about that. How's it going, guys? My name's Richie Kirwan, and today we're going to talk all about macro splits, what they are, why they're so common, and if they're any use for helping you with your physique goals. Before we start, I just want to point out that I'm not recommending any particular way of eating or macro split at all. What I want to do with this video is help you understand what a macro split means, and especially to help you understand some of the major issues with macro splits. So for anyone who might not know yet, a macro split is simply a way of describing the relative amounts of macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats in a given diet. You might see it written something like 15% protein, 55% carbs, and 30% fat. But what does that actually mean? Well, the percentages are percents of total calories. So let's do a little math to give you an idea of how a macro split works in real life. Let's take the recommended daily calories for an average woman. What's an average woman, you might say? Well, there's no such thing, which means giving a recommended calorie intake based on sex isn't very useful, but that's a topic for another day. But for this video, we'll just talk about the guidelines and say the recommended energy intake for an average woman is 2,000 calories per day. Macro splits use percentages of daily calories to calculate someone's daily macronutrients. But we don't measure out percentages. We tend to measure out by weight. So we need to convert those percentages to weight to better apply them to our daily diet. So in the example I mentioned, we had 15% protein. 15% of 2,000 is 300 calories. Each gram of protein has 4 calories, so 300 calories is 75 grams of protein. The math sounds confusing, trust me. Next, carbs. At 55% of 2,000 calories would be 1,100 calories. And as each gram of carbs has 4 calories, that means we have 275 grams of carbs. And finally, fats. At 30% of calories work out at 600 calories. Now, fat is a lot more energy dense, so each gram of fat has 9 calories, which means 600 calories is just 66 grams of fat. So overall, that diet of a total of 2,000 calories has 75 grams of protein, 275 grams of carbs, and 66 grams of fat, which people can try to eat if they're tracking their macros. But this was just an example of one specific macro split. In fact, the example I used was the macro split for the standard nutrition guidelines of countries like the United States or the UK. But there are a lot of different macro splits that many claim to have different effects on weight loss and weight gain. For example, the macro split for a Mediterranean diet is often around 15% protein, 45% carbs, and 40% fat, as Mediterranean diets tend to have a lot of olive oil and nuts. Sometimes you'll see bodybuilder style diets that are really high in protein and low in fat, so they might be 35% protein, 15% fat, and 50% carbs. Or you might have a low carb diet with 30% protein, 60% fat, and only 10% carbs. Or go one step further with a keto diet with less than 5% carbs, 25% protein, and 70% fat. All of this sounds very scientific, and the truth is, these ratios are genuinely used to describe some common dietary patterns in scientific research. But, and this is a really, really important but, macro ratios have a major flaw. To understand the problem, we're going to use a little maths again. If you remember back to the first macro split I mentioned, 15% protein, 55% carbs, and 30% fat, we gave an example of someone eating 2,000 calories a day, which meant they were eating a total of 75 grams of protein. Well, what if that person decided to go on a diet? Say they cut their calories to 1,500. Well, something pretty important would change. Because ratios are related to the amount of calories you eat, all the macros will drop as well. So in this case, this person's protein intake will drop to only 56 grams of protein per day. Now, if you watched any of my protein videos, you'll know that I often recommend higher protein intakes in general, but especially when people are trying to build muscle and when they're trying to lose weight. This is because higher protein on a diet can help you hold onto muscle and can also help keep you feeling fuller so the diet sucks a little bit less. Another thing you may have noticed in my other videos is that I never use percentages to calculate protein intakes. Why? Well, because the most accurate scientific research we have in relation to protein and its effects on body composition is done using grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Now, think about this. When we base your protein intake on your body weight, we're basing it on your specific physiology, on your body. Bigger bodies have more muscle that need more protein, to a point, and smaller bodies need less protein. That makes sense, right? It also makes sense to change your protein intake based on what you're trying to do with your physique. You might increase it to really high amounts to help you build muscle. You might also increase it when you're dieting to hold on to muscle. But if you work with macro ratios, your body weight suddenly doesn't matter. If you cut your calories, your protein drops automatically, even if your body is the same size and has the same protein needs or more because you're dieting. This is why I stay well away from macro ratios when I'm working with my own clients. Instead, I calculate calories based on their body size, activity levels, and goals. So for example, I calculate protein based on body size. I calculate a minimum amount of fat based on body size, and then I split the rest of their calories between fats and carbs based on their preferences or training needs. Now, is that a little more complex than a macro ratio? Yes, but it is far more accurate and a useful method. Now, I've already made a few videos on how to calculate your calories for both building muscle and losing body fat in my other videos, so please check them out. I really hoped that this helped to explain why I think macro ratios are just. As always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe to the Myprotein YouTube channel for even more great evidence-based information.